the hidden hand of the Iranian regime behind anti-Israel protests in the US and Canada. A little sprinkle in from Canada. Recent investigations have exposed a covert yet significant influence of the Iranian regime behind anti Israel protests on university campuses in the US and Canada. A report by Focus on Western Islamism, or FWI for short, revealed that groups like Rise Against Oppression, active at the University of Houston, have been instrumental in organizing pro Palestinian encampments while openly aligning with Iran's leadership. This group, collaborating with Students for Justice in Palestine, or SJP, has hosted conferences celebrating Ayatollah Khomeini, further indicating their deep ties to the Islamic Republic. Additionally, events by Rise featured figures such as Yousef Mawry, a Houthi-aligned Yemeni activist, and Muzzamil Zaidi, an Islamist in Qom, Iran, who has funneled thousands of dollars to Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Muslim Congress, another Shia Islamist organization based in Houston, has not only promoted Khamenei's writings, but organized Al-Quds Day rallies around the US, an event directly supported by the Iranian government to propagate anti Israel sentiment. Moreover, the cybersecurity firm XPOZ discovered that the influence campaign is transnational, with protests at McGill University in Montreal, Canada, heavily influenced by inauthentic accounts linked to Iran's IRGC, which were responsible for inciting violence and coordinating protest activities. Avril Haines, director of national intelligence, emphasized the broader implications of these findings, stating, quote, Iranian government actors have sought to opportunistically take advantage of ongoing protests regarding the war in Gaza, using a playbook we've seen other actors use over the years. These revelations underscore the extensive and deliberate efforts by the Iranian regime to manipulate public opinion in protest movements across North America. So, I thought this would be very interesting to cover because, some time ago, we had the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. When was this? In early July, come out and say that they know that the Islamic Republic is influenced in organizing activity to amplify the anti-Israel movement and kind of the chaos of this movement, frankly. And the director of national intelligence, Avril Haines, even said that they know that there is here's a quote: we have observed actors tied to Iran's government posing as activists online, seeking to encourage protests and even providing financial support to protesters. So, this came out in early July, and this was not entirely surprising to people who know what's up. I
Yeah.
was just like, "Oh, okay, so we're just talking about that openly now? Oh, we're just talking about that openly now. Okay, cool. I mean, we've been telling you guys."
Yeah.
I think the public isn't aware of this, but for people who follow these kinds of issues, we all could see that the influence was there, right? So it was more noteworthy that this is just being openly said and there's press coverage, etc. Well, recently, Focus on Western Islamism put out a report actually going into what some of the involvement could be, because the director of national intelligence made this statement, but they didn't give examples, right? Probably because they're doing further investigation. They didn't name names, they didn't get explicit. So, Focus on Western Islamism did a report kind of dissecting examples of this specifically within Houston, Texas. And for those who are not familiar, you think, oh, Texas, that's the last place I would suspect a bunch of Islamist activity, blah, blah, blah. I mean, we're talking pew, 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 cowboys, yeehaw. No. So Houston is actually very important. Houston has a huge immigrant population, a very large population of Pakistanis and Iranians and Arabs. And also, this is important because Houston is one of the first places that you arrive to in the United States if you're a refugee going through certain refugee processing organizations or systems. I've had several friends who sought asylum in the United States. The first place they landed was Houston, and many people stay there. And so, you might be thinking, yeehaw, cowboys and, good old fashioned conservatism, blah, blah, blah. I would never expect, anti American activity there. Well, Houston is actually a very convenient place for this. And so they were this report basically goes and looks through all the different activities of several nonprofits or activist groups that are aligned in anti-Israel, pro-Palestine protests and what kind of content they're actually putting out there. And a lot of it is explicitly just praising Khomeini, amplifying Khomeinism, organizing Al-Quds Day events. We've talked about Al-Quds Day before on this channel, which caused a lot of attention this year because people are chanting like "Death to America" in the middle of Michigan, and people are like, "What? What the hell is this?" And I'm like, "This is Iranian influence, duh." um,
Well, Islamic Republic's influence. Let's be clear.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. That's an important distinguishing factor. And so I could get into a lot more details of the influence that they identified, but Armin, I'll let you jump in before I just continue on a tangent.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to confirm that if you've been following this channel, you already knew this before this report came out, because we were looking at these protests and they're quoting Khomeini, and some of the protests were on Al-Quds Day, which was founded by Khomeini, and people were some of the signs and some of the chants included Ali. I'm like, huh, this is, and people are like, oh, this is the influence of Islam on these protests. I'm like, it's not just Islam. There's a certain kind of Islam. It's like the Shia, 12-verse Shia Velayat Faqih version of Islam. They're like, this is like very obviously somehow connected to Tehran. What the hell is happening in the US? So you guys have been seeing that. So you've been seeing signs of this happening. And now we have the reports that to confirm it. At least we have, because people, I mean, we're here a bunch of Islamophobes, right? So if we say these things, nobody's going to believe us, right? So it's good that we have reports like this to be able to show people like that. Yeah, like don't take us seriously. Don't believe us. Look at these reports.
No, but these are also reports by Islamophobes, Armin. Come on.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Really?
I mean, give me a break. Okay. What was interesting was that there was also this situation that happened in Canada where basically it's believed that the Islamic Republic was behind anti-Israel protests at McGill University in Montreal. And this was to fuel divisiveness in Canada. And basically, it's because the cybersecurity company conducted a large scale analysis of data from social media networks and concluded that the Islamic Republic was behind a disproportionate amount of activity surrounding these protests based on how the accounts that were involved in talking about and discussing this event were all kind of had their own ecosystem that is not representative of what that same digital ecosystem should look like if it was authentic activity. But meanwhile, like the accounts that were discussing, I don't know, criticism of these protests or whatever was just way more authentic activity than the opposition.
I am noticing something interesting because there's a lot of Islamic accounts that I follow, And a lot of them who used to create anti-Shia content are now justifying why it's okay to work with Shias and why we should be celebrating the Islamic Republic's anti-Israeli stance, right?
Wait, no, Armin, can you dig into this a little bit more? Because I'm a huge nerd about this, but people might not understand why that's significant.
Yeah. So like a lot of Sunnis who used to be very aggressively anti-Shia these days, because the Sunni nations are not doing much against Israel. In fact, they are trying to get closer to Israel. And the Islamic Republic of Iran is the main country that is standing up to Israel. They're now giving historical accounts of how God uses imperfect Muslims to do, like, you don't have to be a perfect Muslim for God to be using you as a tool to achieve, to do what is necessary. And then some other Sunnis are like, what are you talking about imperfect Muslims? Shias are not Muslims at all. Like, yeah, maybe like, so there's a division right now. So some Sunnis are like, it's true that Shia Islam is bid'ah and it's not correct, but it's okay. They are our Muslim brothers, and they are taking a stance against Zionism, and that's the priority, and we should be supporting them. And then some other Sunnis are like, yeah, but they're not Muslim at all. And if there's an infighting right now among Sunnis, and then this other Sunni like, no, that's too much. You can't say they're not Muslim at all. They're imperfect Muslims, right? And then I saw, like, in one of the streams, they were fighting. They were saying, like, Shias are even worse than the Jews. They killed more Muslims than Jews, and they were fighting over this, whether we should now unite with the Islamic Republic of Iran against Israel, or are they, so there's an infighting among Sunnis about this topic, which is quite interesting. But this is just because nobody else has they're looking at in the entire Islamic world, and militarily, nobody is funding uh, a military fight against Israel except the Islamic Republic of Iran. I mean, even if we have Hamas, which is Sunni, fighting Israel, we have is Hezbollah and Hamas and IRGC. So Hezbollah is Shia, funded by the Islamic Republic of Iran. IRGC is obviously the Islamic Republic of Iran itself, and then we have the proxy groups in Syria and Iraq, all funded by Islamic Republic. But even Hamas, that is Sunni, that is also mostly funded by the Islamic Republic. It's funded by Qatar somewhat, people in Qatar, but mostly by Islamic Republic of Iran. So it's all Shia funded. It's all Shia organized. So that's kind of embarrassing. By the way, a lot of people a lot of their hardliner religious people in Iran, when it was embarrassing that they killed Hania in Tehran, but the way that they were trying to make up for it to look tough, they were like, oh, look at the entire Sunni world is waiting for a Shia nation to take revenge for the killing of Hania, right? Like, look
Oh
how
my god.
amazing we are. Yeah,
The
that's what they're
level of
like
cope
the
is
like
insane.
yeah, like, look, the entire Sunni world is like looking at us, the Shia
Oh
regime,
my
to
god.
to respond to the killing of a Sunni leader. Like, look how great we are. And I'm like, how great you are. He was killed on your watch. He
Yeah,
was killed in your he was killed in your capital. You're so amazing that everyone. First of all, where's the revenge? We're not seeing the revenge.
can
But
we
also,
talk about that?
yeah,
Like,
I mean,
there's so many memes. Okay, wait, let's take a pit stop for a second. There are so many memes
Wait.
about waiting for the Islamic Republic retaliation against Israel for that assassination. Like, I've been sending them to Armin. Um, like, are we still holding our breath? Is this gonna happen? Is nothing happening? Personally, I'm not concerned.
Well, I have this girl here for you. She is an Israeli girl, and she's speaking Persian. Okay, This is a girl let's listen to her, right?
چطوری عرضشی؟
She's saying, "How are you, Arzishi?" Arzishi is an insulting way to call the hardliners in Iran, right? So, how are you, Arzishi?
انتقام سخت چی شد؟
so, by the way, she's an Israeli girl speaking Persian in a cute accent. She said, "What happened to your hard revenge?" Okay.
اینم بسته خیش خامنه ای.
I don't know what she said. Something Khamenei, and then. Wait, guys, what was the last thing she said? If you speak Persian, something Khamenei. What?
اینم بسته خیش خامنه ای.
And this is for Khamenei, something Khamenei. I don't know what she said at the end, but she was so she's like making fun of the Islamic Republic for not having the hard revenge. But anyways, that was kind of cute.
Well, Armin, what do you think about this? Because I've been thinking lately that
What?
the Islamic Republic is actually incredibly weak. I'm not afraid of them in any way, shape, or form. And maybe I'll eat my words one day because they do some crazy shit and they'd be like, oh, Susanna, I thought you said that there was no threat, blah, blah, blah. But I have two minds about it. They have genuinely very sophisticated soft power mechanisms in the United States. The Islamic Republic is really skilled, I would say, like psychological warfare, especially when it comes to inside Iran and disrupting opposition. But in terms of their actual, like, I in many other ways, I think they're a complete like paper tiger. And it pisses me off the extent to which our American policymakers are treating the Islamic Republic as if they are our equal, when really I just find them to be saber rattling, but actually very impotent.
So here's the thing. It takes very little power to be able to cause destruction and disruption, right? And it takes a lot more power to be able to create stability and build things, right? So when a country is weaker, if the regime of that country wants to actually act like they're powerful with the limited power that they have to cause chaos, and the other side trying to maintain the order, they will have a much harder time against this much weaker power, because their job is to create destruction and the other side's job is to maintain stability. And that takes a lot more resources and energy. However, if you want to act like a terrorist, you better not have much to lose, right? Because the Islamic Republic could come act like they could cause disruption. But remember, because the other side has a lot more power, if they come and want to now cause disruption within your land, they are a lot more capable to do such a thing. So the Islamic Republic of Iran is very weak, but they are powerful enough to cause a lot of headache for example, Israel. They can do that. However, can they do that and live with the consequences? Because the other side's destruction capacity is a lot higher. Like, are you able? Because if they come for Iran itself, while you have this much dissatisfaction of people for your regime, this is probably, like, the Iranian regime has come to the conclusion that we might not have their rally around the flag effect, you know? So if you're attacked by Israel, it might not be like before, where people come like, oh, we have a foreign force attacking us, let's actually unite with the government. This time it might be actually the other way around. You have a lot of people are dissatisfied. If Israel attacks Iran, internally, it might cause enough instability for the regime to fall. So yes, the Islamic Republic is capable of causing a lot of headache for Israel, but are you willing to risk it? Are you willing to risk instability are you willing to risk Israel coming into an indirect confrontational head-to-head war, knowing the United States is going to be right behind them, supporting them as well, while you have this much instability in Iran? This could bring your downfall. Like you will be the closest thing, like throughout all your history, ever since the Iraq War, like the closest you have come to falling apart was the Iraq War. Like, that the Iraq War, the Iran-Iraq War actually made the Islamic Republic stronger, but it was a toss-up. It could have easily just made it collapse. Like, if they continued the war, it could have the whole regime could have collapsed, right? If United States entered that war, the Islamic Republic, Khomeini himself was convinced that if United States entered that war, the Islamic Republic would have collapsed. But now they know if they go to a direct war with Israel, it's not going to be like the Iran-Iraq war, because the United States will enter that fight, and the Iranian people will not be backing the regime, and they might even take advantage of the opportunity because the regime is too focused on fighting a foreign regime that it might not have enough resources to fight its own people if they do an uprising. So if it goes into a direct war with Israel, we might see the people trying to take advantage of that situation and get into the streets and riot and take out the regime. And that's a risk right now that the Islamic Republic cannot tolerate. So can it cause headache for Israel? Yes. But can it tolerate the consequences of that? It seems like their calculation is not. It is no. The answer is no.
Yeah. I oh yeah. I just think like I don't understand why like the US acts like so intimidated by Iran. It drives me crazy. Would people in
The
the live
Islamic
chat
Republic.
let me know if you think it'd be interesting to have more discussions about the soft power of the Islamic Republic in the United States and on policymakers? It's been something I've been wanting to learn more about recently. I don't know if it's too niche for people, but if people are interested, it might be cool to talk about it on the show because it's something I want to investigate. I want to start learning more about the funding of Islamist networks within the US and within the UK. But that's a little bit like nerdy, but I think it's valuable because not a lot of people talk about the details of how it actually works and how the systems come together to funnel money across the world. And I think if anyone's going to help make it entertaining, it's going to be us. But Armin, I would also like you to explain your metaphor of the shitter in the office because
Um,
I want people
really?
to I do because I want people to always keep in mind the analogy of the shitter in the office because it applies to so much of what's going on within these movements and within these influence campaigns.
Right. So the Islamic Republic of Iran, because it's pathetically weak, it tries to demonstrate that it has power, especially to its own people and its proxies, by creating chaos. Right. And that's what you do when you're weak, because you know that when people are consuming information and the news, the fact that the chaos looks big makes you look powerful, even though it doesn't take enough a lot of resources and energy and power to be able to cause chaos. And the example I usually give on the Persian show is that imagine if you're a coder at Microsoft, right? And one day you just show up at work, and then in the middle of the office, everyone else is coding and working, and you just decide to take off your pants and shit in the middle of the office. And everybody's just looking at you and like, what the fuck just happened? Everyone is shocked. Everyone is terrified. They call the security. They kick you out, and then you think like, look at me. Look what I have done. Microsoft is such a powerful institution, one of the greatest companies in the world, and look what I have just done. I made these people shocked. They never saw this coming. This was on the news. People were terrified. Some of these people are scarred for life. And I did this. And I did this to them. And
I
this is a
brought
big company.
Microsoft to its knees.
Like I caused the people there to be shocked, right? So you don't. But I mean, we could tell you that, Microsoft is going to continue being a company. The employees that were terrified watching this, they still hold on to their jobs. You just lost your job. You fucked yourself. You fucked your career. You're unemployable right now, and the consequences to you is much greater than the consequences to Microsoft. But you could go around and be so proud. Look how you're powerful because you did something that Microsoft did not expect, the employees did not expect, and you feel like you did such a great thing because you managed to do such a thing to Microsoft. This is basically what the Islamic Republic is doing. They're a serial shitter, and they act powerful because they think that they could cause headache for people in the region, and they're proud of that. They're proud of being shitting around in the region, and the advertisement of their power is because of their capacity to shock people and cause a lot of distress.
Yeah, but look at the situation of the people involved in this analogy. We have one of the most valuable one of the most valuable companies on the planet versus one guy taking a dookie in the hallway. Okay? So always consider that difference, okay, guys?
Right,
And
right.
this analogy also, I think, very perfectly fits the situation of the pro-Palestine protesters at the DNC. I don't know if you guys have been following what's been going on at the Democratic National Convention in regard to the pro-Palestine protests, but I'm starting to become convinced that the Democratic National Convention is where the pro-Palestine movement went to die in the US, not with a bang but with a whimper. Because I was before the show, I was watching Destiny, and he was like, the worst thing that can happen to your movement is that the political party that you're trying to leverage power from not only wins, but wins without your support. Because then it goes, they really don't need you. I mean, we have no idea how the election is going to go, but it just goes to show. I'm like, I could be wrong, but right now I'm like, ooh, it's going down with a whimper. With a whimper, not a bang. Ay.
Wait, can I show something to people before we go to the next news?
Yeah.
This has great music behind it, but I'm gonna not play the music. Just imagine some really good music with it. But this is a protest. People with the Israeli flag and the proper Iranian flag with the lion and the sword and the sun,
also,
right?
It is the monarchist Iranian flag. One of them, several.
Well, not the one behind it. The one in the front is the monarchist one, but the one behind is the lion and the sword, the official one. And you can see an American flag and a South Korean flag, but mostly the Israeli flag and the Iranian flag, the proper one, right? But look, I just wanted to show. I just tweeted this, by the way, on Twitter, saying, "Oh wait, what did I tweet?" But let me just look at my tweet, my caption. Oh, yeah. So I said Iranians and Israelis are natural allies fighting for life against the cult of death. And for people who might not know, but why am I saying that this is the proper flag? Yousef sent me this on Twitter, on Instagram. So I just wanted to. I think like this because every time I have to get the two flags separately to show it to you which one is correct. But this is all of them in one picture, right? So the one above, that's the Islamic Republic. The one below, that's the proper Iranian flag, right? So the one above has Allah in the middle, and then you can see those little tiny Arabic words. It's amazing that the Iranian flag, which is 50% of Iranians speak Persian, has Arabic written on it, like which is not even the official language. It's not even. I mean, I don't have anything against the Arabic language, but Arabic is not the official language of this country. Like imagine if the United States flag was Spanish written on it. I mean, nothing against Spanish, but it's not the official language of the country. Like, why is a foreign language written on it, right? Anyways, it has, so those tiny little words are Allahu Akbar written above and below, and Allah in the middle. So that's the Islamic Republic's flag, but the flag below is the actual proper Iranian flag, which has the lion and the sun and the sword in it. So the monarchy. So a lot of people think that's the monarchy flag. That's not the monarchy flag. That's just the official Iran. Like that's the proper Iranian flag. The monarchy flag actually has a crown on top of that lion as well.
Yeah, and
So
usually
that's
like
the
a
difference.
crest of laurels around the lion, a little
Yes.
crown on top.
Right. Yeah. Anyways,
Shall we go
so
through the
you would
super chats?
let's do the super chats. Yes.
Okay. Tesbot gave a super chat saying, side note, UK imams are blaming the UK riots on Jews. I did see that it's being blamed on the Zionists. Now, frankly, I don't know why anyone is surprised by this because I feel like this has just been a constant theme for a very long time. I might cover this on the show next week.
Mm.
Reincarnation Entertainment gave a super chat. Thank you. Just saying, like, share, and subscribe, guys. Oh, that's so nice. And by the way, that's a good
Thank you.
reminder if you're one of the hundreds of people watching on Twitter right now, make sure to come over to YouTube where things are just so much better. Have some fun, subscribe. The Atheist Republic Army is growing. Knows too much gave us 15 shekels saying leftists, we're against imperialism and colonialism. Also leftists, we're pro-genocidal pan-Arabic Islamic imperialism and colonialism in Israel. But of course, my friend. But of course.
The right type of imperials.
Yes, exactly. This was a okay, I'll circle back to that. HD Drake gave a comment saying, Armin, according to reports, Haniyeh was killed due to a projectile shot outside of his window. Could this indicate a partisan, or let's say a person underground within Iran?
No, like a partisan group. Like you mean like people Iranian? Yeah. So like Iranian Cherokee groups. Like yeah. I mean, I don't think so. I mean, everything is possible, but the level of intelligence required to conduct an operation. Oh, bless you. The devil, Iblis bless you. So the level of intelligence required to conduct an operation like that is hard to imagine that being done by an internal Barandos group within Iran. This is the most justifiable belief is to say that this was Mossad and Israel doing this. It was just too advanced of an operation for this not to have been Israel. So it
Well,
was just insane. Like, yeah,
also deep inside regime knowledge.
yes. Which Israel, we know Israel has a lot of insiders within the region itself. So yeah, it was too good for it to be a partisan underground group within Iran. I mean, everything is possible. I'm just saying that it's not like that.
Everything is possible with our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Sorry. As someone raised Catholic, whenever I hear that phrase, it's just the rest of it immediately has to fill in. The script must complete. Knows Too Much gave another super chat saying, leftists, we defend minorities. Also, 1.6 billion Muslims with 50 plus countries equals a persecuted minority. They can persecute all the actual minorities that they want. This, to be fair, this is a phenomenon mostly within Western leftists that have like almost no knowledge or familiarity with minorities within Muslim majority countries. I do know leftists that are from the MENA region. They're full-blown leftists who are very knowledgeable and protective of their local minorities. But in general, I agree with the sentiment of like anything and everything goes when it comes to going after the world's largest religion. But if we slightly shift our attention to the second largest religion in the world, suddenly we got a huge problem. And the failure to understand that just because a group of people is a minority in your country does not mean that they are not a majority somewhere else drives me insane. Um, Gage American gave a super chat saying, I have not felt patriotic in such a long time. Eagle, Lotus, Eagle. Hey, well, Gasian, that's your freedom as a goddamn American. You get to feel as anti-American as you want. Personally speaking, whenever I'm not feeling very patriotic, I just start thinking about the First Amendment, and then I'm willing to just go raise the flag again.
Yeah. Yeah, that by itself should do it. I mean, if you look
Yeah.
at you should, as an American, you should feel very patriotic, saying how in the UK and in Europe people are. I mean, I don't like to say that because then that would suggest that you shouldn't feel patriotic as a UK citizen or a French citizen.
No, but they have cause to be
Anyways,
concerned right now.
yeah, but
They have
cause to be
genuine
concerned
cause to
shouldn't
be
make you.
concerned.
But cause to be concerned shouldn't make you unpatriotic, right? Yeah.
Sure, of course not. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm also concerned about stuff going on in my country,
Yes.
but I
Yes,
just
yes.
think about that glorious First Amendment, and God, does she look sexy? And no one will ever take you from me. I'm being silly, guys. I'm sorry. Angry keyboard warrior is saying, is Trump/Kamala better regarding Israel-Hamas war? This is a very
That's
broad
actually
question.
yeah. So here's the thing. Okay, so first, when it comes to Trump, he is a little bit unpredictable when it comes to what he does. But if you believe the things that he's saying, it's a mix of it's a mix, right? Because Trump, when it comes to what he says and what he allows, might be better for Israel, but he's a little bit of well, not a little bit. He's an isolationist and protectionist, and the commitment to resources when it comes to for the Middle East, which is required for keeping Israel safe, because he's such an isolationist, if he follows through with being isolationist, then that might actually be more harmful to Israel, right? So when it comes to if Trump becomes president, there will be less pressure on Israel to abide by the things that the United States wants, like less forcing Israel, for example, to do a ceasefire when Israel doesn't want to do a ceasefire. So in that aspect, it would be beneficial for Israel. But from the other end, there will be less military resources committed to maintaining stability in the Middle East, and that is more dangerous for Israel. So it's a mixed bag, I would say. What do you guys think? Is that a fair answer?
There are no simple answers. Let me tell you that much. Um,
Right.
GJ gave a super chat saying, hello from Holland. Sorry for being late, but Max Verstappen was competing in the Dutch F1 Grand Prix just earlier. Well, I mean, F1 is life, bro. You gotta stay committed. Saying, but really, the fall of Iran might start the resurrection of Persia. First of all, this framing is confusing to me because correct me if I'm wrong, Armin, but Iran is the traditional name. Persia
Yes.
was a foreign name. So this dichotomy doesn't make sense because calling it Iran
Yes.
is already the resurrection. If
Yeah,
you want to put in those terms from Persia.
Persia is the wrong name. The ancient name is Iran. The un is like you guys. I don't know why you think Iran is the Islamic Republic. Iran is the un-Islamic name. Okay, Iran traditionally just means the land of Aryans. So Persia is the wrong name. We don't want to resurrect Persia. Persia is the name that foreigners gave to the land. The actual local name historically has been Iran. The name was internationally, the name was changed from Persia to Iran by Reza Shah before the Islamic Republic, and rightfully so. For two good reasons, the name was changed to Iran. One, because that's the official name that Iranians recognize Iran with. So why was the world referring to this place as Persia, where the people themselves refer to it as Iran? Two, because half of Iranians are not Persians. It's a very racist term for this entire land, given that 50% of Iranians are Persian and the rest are Turkish, Kurd, Bakhtiyari, Giliki, Arab, Baluchi. That's 50% of Iranians. Like, what the hell is wrong with people thinking that the proper name for this entire land is Persia, like making it racial? I mean, technically, Iran also is racial, but it has lost that meaning, right? Like Iran itself, because there's no Aryan race anymore. The Aryan race does not exist. It's a delusion, right? So, and Iran, even though it's technically comes from a racial, it has racial roots, now it doesn't mean that anymore. But Persia does mean that. Persia is referring to an ethnicity. So it's not a proper name. The fall of Iran, like, no. The fall of the Islamic Republic and the resurrection of Iran. The fall of Islamic Republic and the resurrection of Iran, not Persia.
Speaking of, this is a good segue into the next super chat, which is Tezbot saying Lion of Saint Mark flag. No, the Shura Hashid is not the Lion of Saint Mark. The Lion of Saint Mark has, like a halo, it has wings, it has the little Bible representing the Gospel of Saint Mark. The Shura Hashid, meaning lion and sun, is literally a lion, sometimes holding a sword, pretty cool, with a sun behind it. And this symbol comes from astrology, actually, symbolizing the house of Leo. And kind of this belief of the lion representing like the king of animals. And there's some evidence to believe that the sun comes from worship of Mithras, actually. So this is the lion and sun in these symbols of astrology are seen throughout Proto-Indo-European civilizations. And this is one of the theories behind the origin of the symbol, that it predates Islamic conquest. I could be wrong, but that's my understanding of the symbol. So no association to the Saint Mark.
Wait, hold on. Let me respond to this 1 second.
Yeah.
Nira is saying, so Iran also dies from diversity. Iran has always been like, no. Nira, Iran has always, these ethnicities that I mentioned, okay, they have been there from ancient times. This is not something new. Iran has been a mix of these ethnicities since civilization, since the beginning of history. Okay, so I don't know. Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah. There's this amazing music video. If the Islamic Republic ever falls, I know exactly how Iran needs to boost their tourism. They need to take whoever's behind this song called Hanava Degito 2. No, it's just Hanava Degito 2. And basically, it is rappers from every single province in Iran rapping in their local language about Iran, about their local province, about their history. And it's the most amazing demonstration of the vast diversity of Iranian culture I have ever seen. And it's so cool because you go show this to my Persian friends, like half the song they literally cannot even understand because there's so many different languages, so many different histories and cultures and different outfits and different dances. It's insanely beautiful. So the idea that this caused a death of Iran is laughable. Okay, so there was one comment I wanted to address. Let's stick on this theme about Iran. So basically, Amichai was asking, I'm interested in learning how could Israel or other people outside of Iran help people inside Iran take down their government. A lot of it has to do with encouraging our local governments to put pressure on the regime, not do things that validate their existence, not do things that release funding into their hands. That's a big part of it. Another thing is basically do not allow anyone who is working against the Islamic Republic to use ethnic separatism in Iran for their own purposes. Anyone who is using like any ethnic separatist movement to try to undermine the Islamic Republic is also undermining the future well-being of any free Iranian nation. So anyone who's trying to violate the border integrity of Iran needs to be freaking blacklisted and called out because they are not a good faith individual working actually for the benefit of the freedom of these people. It's going to undermine it faster than anything you've ever seen. Um and besides that, I would really recommend just like getting involved in your local Iranian community. I got involved with my local Iranian community, have an absolute blast, go get dinner with them all the time. Sometimes I help them work on like local advocacy with politicians. Um, yeah, some of my favorite people in my life I literally met just on the street doing a protest together, and now we're best buddies. Um, Gene had a comment that you wanted to address, Armin. You
Yes.
highlighted.
So Gene is saying Iran has been diverse before history was written. Literally, some of the first written things we have are about the Persian Empire doing multiculturalism. Actually, if you live in London, go to the British Museum, right? And first of all, the Iran section have Cyrus's cylinder. And if you actually read it, you can see how Cyrus the Great, and this was written more than 500 years B 500 more than 5 BC, right? And if you read what is written on the cylinder, you can see that Cyrus the Great is being tolerant to the culture of the people who he invaded, and is allowing them to. In fact, it was his guys I should do a show on the proper way of doing multiculturalism, because we have had a bad experience right now with multiculturalism, but there is the right way to do it and there's the wrong way to do it. Okay. And the right way to do it, the person who did that right was Cyrus the Great, 500 BC, right? And the reason why Jews have a country right now is because Cyrus the Great did multiculturalism, right? When he when he freed them from Babylon and allowed the Jews. So instead of, unlike other kings, when he would invade a place, he wouldn't force his religion or his way of life upon those people, including the Jews. Not, Cyrus the Great freed the Jews after he invaded the land where they were exiled in. This is multiculturalism. And he allowed them to go back to Jerusalem, and he funded their rebuilding of the temple. Right, so the temple that the Babylonians destroyed, Cyrus the Great, not only did he free the Jews, he funded. And here in this cylinder, he also is showing respect to the god of the Babylonians, even though his god is Ahura Mazda, right? And also, right next to this cylinder, in the British Museum, right next to it, if you turn it around this way, right, you will see. You turn right, you will see right this on the wall, right, and right? And this is exactly from back then as well. And this is actually a demonstration of multiculturalism, 500 BC, because this is Cyrus the Great is showing the people that are bringing him gift, and it's showing that there are different cultures. Like if you could read the cultures that these people are coming, like, so he's showing based on the gifts that they're bringing and the type of attire that they have, they are marked as these are these people with this culture and this background. And Cyrus the Great is bragging about the multiculturalism of his empire, because he was the first guy that was like, I'm not going to make you all the same. Like, I'm going to just allow everybody have their own religion and their own lifestyle, and I'm just going to celebrate your differences. That was what Cyrus the Great celebrated in these stones, like he marked them as. And I mean, his empire was multiculturalism is not the way that Europe is doing it right now. That is insane. right? But Cyrus the Great's empire, his empire was great, and he allowed people to have their own way of life, right? So again, I could do a show telling you the difference between the right way and the wrong way to do multiculturalism.
Yeah, I want to see that. Um,
Yeah.
Quick question or the comment, by the way, Sohail just became a member on the channel. Thank you, Sohail. Welcome to Satan's Minions, which is a good reminder that if you are interested in supporting the channel, supporting our work, making sure that we can continue and support the team because it is way bigger than just me and Armin, please consider becoming a member on YouTube. There is the link down here in the corner. Just hit join, and it's a great way to support, and you get access to fun members only stuff. Quick thing I wanted to address, Centrist is asking me, Susanna, do you think that Houston is safe for ex-Muslim asylum seekers? And he's asking also what state in the U.S. is safe for ex-Muslim asylum seekers. In general, I think that every state is safe for ex-Muslim asylum seekers. Every city is safe for ex-Muslim asylum seekers. Now, the thing is, there might be certain places where it's like, oh, there's a high concentration of one specific community that I don't feel very safe around. Okay, well, you can go somewhere else. Like, or maybe the literal facilities where you have to stay within your, when you first are settling as a refugee, have very heavily Muslim. Like, I have a friend in my city who's refugee, and I go visit him sometime at his public housing place. Like, his public housing place is like head to toe, like chadoris, women wearing niqab, like little girls running around 6 years old with hijab, blah blah blah. He's, I guess you would consider him like an Iranian, like never Muslim, but he just minds his own business and lives his own life. But other people would maybe not feel comfortable in that scenario. Also, hilariously, we have a Kurdish separatist that's pissed at us in the chat. Susanna, Kurdistan comes before you and your life.
Oh wow.
And Armin is a foot soldier of Persian imperialism, obviously.
Yes. No, Jay. No, I'm not suggesting. Back, like, this is insane, you guys. Back then, everything was imperial. Like, what do you? There was no alternative to being part of an empire back then. What are you talking about? Okay, if I say that Cyrus the Great was doing things better than other empires, like other kings back then, like he was a revolutionary. Like, you cannot judge him for having an empire. What was the alternative? Every land back then, every civilization was part of an empire. That was the only way to rule. So I don't know what you're talking about. Anyways.
Get swallowed up or get destroyed? Like, what are we talking about? Erican gave a super chat saying, looks like YouTube is throttled in Turkey. I was normally able to watch in 720 pixels, but now 480 today, but only 480 today. Damn. I don't know. Can you switch a VPN or something? That's unfortunate. A gave a super chat saying, I love when Armin talks Iranian history and culture. Oh, cool.
Oh, wow. Okay, thank you.
You also wanted to highlight this comment?
Yeah, so Mark is saying multiculturalism does not work without integration. It's true when integration of values, all right, not integration of, like, when I talk at culture, I segment them into two parts, right? And these two are so different that I think they use the same word for them, and I think they are so different that they shouldn't be using the same word for them. They refer to both of them as culture, right? So let me again explain this. Category A and Category B. Category A is dance, food, architecture, art, music, all of this stuff, right?
Language,
and
poetry.
Poetry, yes, poetry. Well, I mean, language. Language is a separate category. I'm okay with accepting only one language within a land. That's fine, right? So forget language, right? Poetry, right? And then second category is values, principles, methodology, right? When it comes to the first category, you don't have to integrate. The more the merrier. There's no better or worse. There's personal taste, right? That category, we don't require integration. When it comes to art, food, dance, fashion, architecture, the more diverse, the better, right? Diversity in the category A is okay. Diversity in category B is not okay. When it comes to category B, there are objectively inferior and superior culture, and we should not tolerate inferior culture. Not only we should not tolerate it, we should actually be working to eliminate them. We should be fighting against them, right? So integration in category B, and not just integration, destruction of inferior culture. In category A, it's a matter of personal taste. The more the merrier. Category B, absolute unsympathetic, brutal annihilation of inferior culture.
Okay. Values.
Values. No, inferior culture, when I'm saying, yeah, within the value category, obviously. Yeah, inferior culture when it comes to values. There is no such thing as an inferior culture when it's art and dance and food and fashion. There is inferior and superior, but it's a matter of personal taste. You consider this superior, I consider that superior. I like this food, you like that food. You like Indian food more, I like Japanese food more. Okay, that diversity is okay, but values and methodology, no, because when it comes to values and methodology, we are trying to improve the well-being, the human condition, and there are objectively better ways and worse ways of doing that. So I'm not going to diversify the methodologies. I'm just going to identify the superior way and just go with that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I have a point about language, but I think we should just move on. Yusuf,
Oh,
didn't you
yeah,
need to address
he had a
something
super
you said?
chat. Yousef had a super chat before, was asking about do we have such a thing as negative freedoms? Yes, we have positive freedoms and negative freedoms. Negative freedoms means that I want the government or other people to leave me alone to be able to be free to do things. Positive freedoms means like, well, I actually can't do these things unless somebody helps me. Like it requires resources and action for me to be free. Like with only negative freedoms, the only thing you're free to do is to die, because you actually, in order to be able to do the things with your freedom, you require support. So some people talk about positive freedoms for us to be able to empower you to do the things that you're free to do, right? So negative freedoms are the freedoms that you get when somebody stays out of your way. Positive freedoms are the freedoms that you get because somebody's supporting you. Do you know who makes the most amazing, gorgeous, and other adjectives that I can't use here on YouTube, blasphemous art ever? We do! And for some reason, we are giving it away for free. Download them now using the link in the description before we change our mind.